Ladies and gentlemen, discipline is not some rigid military command, nor is it a punishment. It is the purest form of self-respect. When you decide to be disciplined, you are declaring to the world, and more importantly to yourself, that your life is worth taking seriously, that your goals, your body, your mind, your future are worthy of order, structure, and effort. And let me tell you something, the absence of discipline isn't freedom, it's slavery. Slavery to impulses, to laziness, to every distraction the world throws at you. I've spent years studying how the brain wires habits, how decision-making works, and how people sabotage themselves. The brain is not designed to chase comfort. It's designed to adapt, and adaptation only comes through struggle. You see, discipline isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about delaying gratification because you respect yourself enough not to exchange your future for a momentary fix. Every time you hit snooze, every time you skip the workout, every time you let yourself off the hook, you're making a decision about your worth. You're saying, I don't deserve the best of me. Think about how cruel that is. You would never tell someone you love that they don't deserve success, health, or greatness. So why would you treat yourself that way? I once spoke to a young man who had every talent in the world, brilliant mind, natural charisma, opportunities most people would kill for. Yet he was drowning in excuses. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, but couldn't wake up before noon. He wanted to be fit, but couldn't stop eating junk. He wanted respect, but couldn't keep his own promises. He was trapped in the most dangerous lie of all, that he had time. But discipline is the voice that reminds you that time is not infinite. That voice that says, respect yourself enough to act now. Because the brutal truth is, when you don't enforce discipline, the world will enforce consequences. The body breaks down. The mind becomes anxious. Relationships crumble. Opportunities vanish. And the very life you dreamed of becomes a bitter regret. Let me share something from neuroscience. Every time you resist temptation and act with discipline, you strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that governs decision-making, long-term planning, and emotional regulation. Every time you cave, you strengthen the limbic system, the part that only cares about survival and immediate pleasure. You are literally carving neural pathways that define who you are. Discipline wires you to control life. Lack of discipline wires life to control you. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. Now, I want you to think of someone you respect deeply. Maybe a leader, an athlete, a mentor, or even a parent. What do they all have in common? It's not luck, it's not just talent, it's consistency. The willingness to do the hard things even when no one is watching. That's discipline. And we respect them because we subconsciously recognize the self-respect in their behavior. You cannot separate respect from discipline. They are one and the same. I remember working with a high-performing executive who came to me on the edge of collapse. He was wealthy, successful, admired, but inside he was falling apart. He was drinking too much, neglecting his health, avoiding difficult conversations. He had fooled the world, but he couldn't fool himself. And when I asked him what he feared the most, he didn't say losing his money or status. He said, I'm terrified of becoming someone I can't look in the mirror without shame. That is the cost of abandoning discipline. It robs you of your ability to respect yourself. Without self-respect, everything else is hollow. And let me be brutally honest with you. Life will test you. Every single day. There will be moments when you are tired, when you are angry, when no one is there to pat you on the back. And in those moments, discipline is not glamorous. It's painful, but it's in that pain that you prove your worth to yourself. Pain is not the enemy. It's the proof that you're alive, that you're fighting, that you haven't surrendered to mediocrity. Think of the soldier who trains before dawn, not because it's comfortable, but because his life and the lives of others may depend on it. Think of the single mother who works 2 jobs, studies at night, and still raises her children with dignity because she refuses to let her circumstances define her. Think of the athlete who runs laps after everyone else has gone home, not because anyone is watching, but because she refuses to betray her future self. These people embody discipline, and that discipline is their declaration of self-respect. And don't misunderstand me, discipline doesn't mean perfection. You will fail, you will break routines, you will slip, But discipline is not about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. It's about choosing again and again to honor yourself by getting back up. That is where strength is built. That is where character is forged. The great tragedy is that most people are disciplined about the wrong things. They are disciplined about checking their phones first thing in the morning, disciplined about complaining, disciplined about avoiding discomfort. But when it comes to building their body, their mind, their relationships, their legacy, they crumble. Why? Because deep down, they don't believe they're worth the effort. And that is the root issue, self-worth. Discipline is not possible without self-respect, and self-respect cannot exist without discipline. They feed each other in a cycle that either destroys you or elevates you. I've seen people transform their lives not because they suddenly became smarter or richer, but because they finally decided to stop disrespecting themselves. They drew a line in the sand and said, no more. No more treating my body like trash. No more wasting hours on meaningless distractions. No more promises broken to myself. And the moment they chose discipline, everything else began to change. Their confidence grew, their opportunities multiplied, their relationships deepened, not because the world suddenly became easier, but because they became stronger. When you respect yourself, you don't tolerate nonsense. You don't tolerate procrastination, excuses, or mediocrity. You demand more from yourself, not out of cruelty, but out of love. Because discipline is love in action. It's loving yourself enough to say, I deserve better. I deserve health. I deserve peace of mind. I deserve to live fully. That is self-respect. And that is the foundation upon which everything great is built. Now, let's talk science again for a moment. Do you know what happens in the brain of someone who lacks discipline? Chronic stress, elevated cortisol levels, sleep disruption, poor emotional regulation. It's a cascade that destroys health and accelerates aging. On the other hand, disciplined habits, whether it's exercise, structured sleep, focused work, or meditation, optimize dopamine and serotonin pathways. They regulate your circadian rhythm. They literally rewire you for resilience, clarity, and strength. Discipline doesn't just make you mentally tough. It makes you biologically stronger. This is why people who live with discipline often look younger, perform better, and live longer. Their biology is aligned with their choices. And let's be clear, the world we live in does not reward discipline in the short term. It rewards instant gratification. Every app, every advertisement, every algorithm is designed to weaken your self-respect by hijacking your attention and training you to choose ease over effort. So if you want discipline, you have to fight back. You have to go against the grain. You have to stand up in a culture that says, take it easy, and respond with, no, I respect myself too much to live easy and die unfulfilled. Discipline is not something you practice only when you feel motivated. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. Motivation will abandon you at 5 a.m. when it's cold and dark. Motivation will abandon you when rejection hits, when failure stings, when life beats you down. Discipline stays. Discipline whispers, get up, keep moving. You are better than this. That is why discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect, because it's a promise you keep to yourself even when every cell in your body wants to quit. And here's something most people don't realize. The absence of discipline is itself a discipline. You are disciplined in laziness, disciplined in avoidance, disciplined in making excuses. You are always practicing something. The only question is, are you practicing weakness or practicing strength? Are you building a life you respect or building a prison of regret? Ladies and gentlemen, the harshest truth I can tell you is this: no one is coming to save you. No one is going to impose discipline on you. No one is going to hand you self-respect. This is the one battle in life you must fight alone. And if you win it, you win everything. Now the question becomes, how much do you respect yourself? Enough to sacrifice comfort? Enough to endure the pain of growth? Enough to silence the excuses? Because the level of your discipline will always match the level of your self-respect. Weak discipline means weak respect. Strong discipline means strong respect. And if you still think discipline is punishment, let me ask you, what's the greater punishment? The sting of discipline today or the lifelong ache of regret tomorrow. The truth is, you will suffer either way, but one suffering leads to strength and the other leads to shame. So decide. Decide whether you will live as someone who disrespects their own life or as someone who commands it. Decide whether you will betray yourself or honor yourself. Decide whether you will exist or truly live. Because at the end of the day, discipline is not about rules, it's about respect. And without self-respect, you will never experience true freedom, true success, or true peace. And if you want to know what it feels like, look at the faces of those who kept their word to themselves, who endured, who built something extraordinary through discipline. That glow, that strength, that unshakable confidence, it's not magic. It's self-respect earned through discipline. And you too can have it. Every human being, no matter how accomplished, wakes up each morning with a choice. And that choice is brutally simple. Will you respect yourself today, or will you betray yourself? That is the daily crossroad, and no one escapes it. Not the billionaire, not the athlete, not the scientist, not the artist, not the soldier, not the single parent trying to put food on the table. We all face it. The tragedy is that most people don't even recognize it's a choice. They think life is happening to them. They don't realize that each small act of discipline, or lack thereof, is a silent vote cast for the kind of person they are becoming. I once spent time in a rehabilitation clinic studying people who had lost control over their impulses. Addiction had taken over their lives. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, you name it. And as I listened to their stories, a pattern became clear. None of them set out to destroy themselves. None of them woke up one day and said, I want to lose my family, my health, my dignity. It all began with tiny acts of self-betrayal, skipping one responsibility, ignoring one promise, giving in to one temptation. And each time, they told themselves it didn't matter. But the brain doesn't forget. The nervous system remembers. Every lapse is stored. And over time, the body and mind adapt to weakness until weakness becomes identity. That is what undisciplined living does. It rewires you to fail. But the opposite is also true. I've seen people climb out of the darkest holes imaginable through discipline. I met a man who spent a decade in prison, written off by society, abandoned by family. When he got out, he could have fallen back into the same chaos, but he didn't. He began with the smallest disciplines, making his bed, keeping his cell clean, reading one page of a book a day. It sounds laughably simple, but those small acts built momentum, and over time, his self-respect grew. He got a job, he started saving money, he rebuilt his relationships. Today, he runs a company that employs dozens of people. He didn't get there overnight. He built it brick by brick, discipline by discipline, until his self-respect became unshakable. This is why I say discipline is not about punishment, it's about identity. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when life gets ugly? Who are you when excuses come dressed as comfort? That is where self-respect is forged. Now let me give you a scientific perspective that makes this undeniable. In the field of neuroplasticity, we've learned that the brain doesn't care whether you succeed or fail in the moment. It only cares about what you repeat. Habits, whether positive or negative, create myelin around neural circuits, strengthening them like insulated wires. Every time you practice discipline, waking up early, exercising, focusing deeply, you lay down thicker layers of myelin around those circuits, making them faster and more automatic. This means discipline literally becomes easier the more you practice it. Conversely, every time you avoid discipline, you strengthen the circuits of procrastination, distraction, and self-sabotage. You are literally sculpting your future self with every choice. So when people say discipline is hard, I tell them no, indiscipline is hard, because indiscipline may feel easy today, but it makes tomorrow unbearable. Discipline might sting today, but it makes tomorrow powerful. And when you stack enough powerful tomorrows, you create a future you're proud of. Let me take it deeper into the emotional side of this. Think about the times you have felt truly proud of yourself. Was it when you gave into comfort? Was it when you avoided the challenge? Of course not. It was when you pushed through. It was when you conquered temptation. It was when you chose discipline over ease. That pride wasn't random. It was self-respect manifesting as joy. And that joy is infinitely more fulfilling than the hollow rush of instant gratification. I've spoken with elite athletes who say the same thing. They don't remember the countless nights they stayed home while their friends partied. They don't remember the sting of saying no to dessert, to comfort, to indulgence. What they remember is the day they won, the day they stood on the podium, the day they knew without a shadow of a doubt that they earned it. That memory burns forever. That's what discipline gives you. But here's where most people fail. They think discipline is about massive, heroic acts. They wait for some grand transformation. No, discipline is in the tiny daily decisions that no one else notices. Do you drink water or soda? Do you scroll for another hour or go to bed? Do you speak the truth or lie to yourself? These choices seem small, but they compound. And compounding is the most powerful force in nature. Just as compound interest turns $1 into a fortune, compounded discipline turns an ordinary life into greatness. I want to tell you a story about a young woman I met who wanted to become a doctor. She came from poverty, worked part-time jobs, and had every reason to give up. Many nights she studied by candlelight because the electricity was cut off. Her friends mocked her for missing out on fun, but she stayed disciplined. She respected herself too much to give in. Today, she wears a white coat, saves lives every day, and inspires countless others. She didn't get there because life was easy. She got there because she respected herself enough to endure hardship. And that's the point. Discipline is not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about respect. Let's talk biology again. The human body thrives under disciplined stress. Weightlifting tears muscle fibers so they grow stronger. Running stresses the cardiovascular system so it adapts and becomes more efficient. Fasting resets the metabolism, improves insulin sensitivity, and boosts cellular repair. The body is designed to respond to discipline with growth. Without discipline, the body decays. Without challenge, it weakens. Discipline is literally life-giving. But society has sold us the lie that comfort is the goal, that ease is success, that pleasure is happiness. No, comfort is slow death. Ease is erosion. Pleasure without purpose is poison. The brain was not designed to live on dopamine hits from screens and junk food. It was designed to thrive on meaning, challenge, and growth. Discipline provides that meaning. Without it, people drift into depression, anxiety, and emptiness. I've seen this firsthand. People who seemingly have everything, money, status, luxury, but live without discipline, and they are miserable. Their bodies are falling apart. Their relationships are shallow. Their minds are restless. They chase distraction after distraction, but nothing fills the void. Why? Because self-respect cannot be bought. It can only be earned through discipline. And until you earn it, no amount of external success will satisfy you. And let me say this clearly. Self-respect is the foundation of every relationship you will ever have. If you don't respect yourself, you will tolerate disrespect from others. You will attract people who mirror your own lack of standards. You will settle for less, not because you have to, but because you believe you deserve less. Discipline changes that. When you respect yourself, you demand respect from others, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You carry yourself differently. People feel it. They either rise to meet you or they fall away. That is the quiet power of self-respect. And it is forged in the furnace of discipline. So the question is, how do you begin? You begin by keeping one promise to yourself today, just one, and then tomorrow another. And slowly those promises become identity. I am the kind of person who keeps my word. I am the kind of person who doesn't quit. I am the kind of person who respects myself. That is how discipline transforms you. Not through grand gestures, but through consistent alignment with who you want to be. And I promise you this, once you taste the power of living with discipline, you will never want to go back, because nothing feels better than looking in the mirror and knowing you can trust yourself. That trust is priceless. that trust is freedom, that trust is the essence of self-respect. And let me leave you with this thought. Life will not ask politely whether you are disciplined. Life will demand it. Your health will demand it. Your relationships will demand it. Your dreams will demand it. And if you fail to meet that demand, the cost will be your own respect. But if you rise to it, if you choose discipline every day, then no matter what storms come, no matter what obstacles rise, you will know this unshakable truth. You respected yourself enough to live with strength, dignity, and purpose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a life worth living.